Hello students, welcome to Ayurveda. Today we are going to start a new topic which is the anatomy of skin. So let's get started. First let's start with the introduction. So the skin is the largest and most important organ of the body. The skin is the largest and most important organ of the body because it is that organ which covers the entire body or protects all the internal structures of the body. So that's why it is the most important organ. It is also a part of the integumentary system. Integumentary system is the body's outermost layer which consists of skin, hairs, nails and glands. So all this content are called as integumentary system collectively. So skin is also the part of this integumentary system which is the body's most outermost layer. It is the general covering of the entire external surface of the body. Is I have already told that skin is the general covering of the entire external surface of the body, and it is continuous with the mucous membrane at the orifices. So at the natural orifices of the body such as nostrils, such as ear openings, urethral opening, vaginal orifices, in all these orifices the skin is continuous with the mucous membrane. Okay, skin makes up about 16% of body weight. It makes up about 16% of total body weight, and it covers the area of 1.5 to 2 square meter surface area. So skin covers 1.5 to 2 square meter surface area of total body, and it makes about 16% of total body weight. Moving on, next is the surface area of an individual. The surface area of an individual is calculated by this formula, which is A equals to W multiplied by H multiplied by 71.84. This formula is given by Eugene Du Bois. So this formula is used to calculate the surface area of an individual, and the formula goes like here: A stands for surface area, body surface area, W stands for weight, H stands for height, and then it is multiplied by 71.84, and this formula is given by Eugene Du Bois. If we talk about the thickness of the skin, on an average the thickness of skin is 0.5 to 3 mm, but this thickness varies according to age and also according to the gender and according to the part of the body involved. So according to age, if we talk about, so as the age grows, there is decrease in the skin elasticity and also decrease in the collagen naturally, which causes the thin skin in the old age people, and also in women's after menopause there is estrogen loss, which will also affect the thickness of the skin, making the skin thinner. And if we talk about gender, in male the skin is thicker as compared to that of female, because a higher level of testosterone and collagen in male causes the skin to be thicker than that of the woman. And also the thickness varies according to the part of the body. For example, in the palms and soles the skin is thicker as compared to the remaining body, and why this happens we will be discussing this point on the upcoming slides. So the thickness, this is the average thickness, which is 0.5 to 3 mm, but it varies according to the age, according to the part of the body and according to the gender. In case of burns, the surface area involved can be assessed by rule of 9. First you have to understand that the rule of 9 was first developed by Pulaski and Tennyson in 1949, and then Alexander Burns Wallace in 1951 published an article describing this rule of 9. So that's why the rule of 9 is also known as the Wallace rule of 9. So what the rule of 9 says, it gives a specific percentage to the specific part of the body. uh, if the burn occurs in that specific part, the burn is denoted by that percentage. For example, in adult, the head region is denoted by 9%. So, if the burn is occurring in the head region, it is said that the 9% of the body area is affected by burn. And if it affects the upper limbs, it says that the 9%, it goes 9% for both the upper limbs. So, 9% for each upper limb is denoted. Then if in trunk, the front of trunk is denoted by 18% and back of trunk is denoted by 18%, and both the lower limbs are denoted by 18%, and the genital regions in adult is denoted by 1%. And if you talk about pediatric age, the head region is denoted by 18% in children's, and the trunk region, front and back, both are denoted by 18%. Upper limb region is denoted by 9%, and the lower limb, both the lower limbs are denoted by 14% each. So, when a specific area is affected by burn, the rule of 9 is used to denote the percentage of the surface area involved. If the burn is affecting the upper limb or the right side of the upper limb, it is said that the 9% in adult, the 9% of body surface area is affected by burn. So, that is why rule of 9 is very important in case of burn. Next, we will see the synonyms of skin. It is cutis, derma and integument. Moving on, now we will see the structure of skin. So, there are three layers of skin. The most superficial is the epidermis. Below that, there is dermis layer, and most deepest layer is the hypodermis. So, you have to keep in mind that in some books there are only two layers of skin, which is epidermis and dermis, and they have considered hypodermis as the layer of adipose tissue which is present below the skin. But some books considered all these three layers as the layers of skin. Okay. Now, we will see each layer in detail. The first one is the epidermis. Epidermis is the most superficial layer. It is composed of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So, epidermis consists of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium cells. Keratinized meaning it contains of the keratin protein. The cell contains keratin protein, which is very essential for the skin health. So, in epidermis layer, blood vessels are absent. Blood vessels are not present in the epidermis layer. It is the most important point, that the blood vessels are not present in the epidermis layer of the skin. And the epidermis layer is divided into different layers according to the different body parts. So, I have already mentioned in the previous slides that in palms and soles the skin is thicker, and in the remaining body the skin is thinner. This is because of the epidermis layers. The in some part where the skin is thicker, there are presence of 5 layers of epidermis, and in the remaining part where the skin is thinner, there are presence of 4 layers of epidermis. What are that layer? We will be discussing further. So, uh, thick skin is present in palms and soles. That means there are presence of 5 layers of epidermis, and thin skin is present in the remaining body, which means there is presence of 4 layers of epidermis. Now, we will see what are these 5 layers of epidermis which are present on palms and soles, and which are also called as the thick skins. So, the layers are from superficial to deep. It goes like, first is the stratum corneum, which is the most superficial layer of epidermis, then stratum lucidum, then stratum granulosum, then stratum spinosum, and the most deepest layer is the stratum basale. Okay. So, here you have to understand that the stratum basal consists of the basal cells. Okay. and these basal cells are the precursors of keratinocytes. That means the keratinocytes developed from the basal cells of this stratum basal layer. So this is the process of keratinization. Okay, keratinization means the process by which keratinocytes produced and they accumulate keratin protein. So the keratinization process starts in the stratum basal layer by the basal cells which produces keratinocytes, and these keratinocytes accumulate keratin, which is very essential for skin health. So the keratinization process will start at this layer, which is the deepest layer of epidermis, stratum basal. The keratinization starts here, and then these keratinocytes goes upward layer by layer by mitosis. Layer by layer they goes upward by mitosis, and then finally fully keratinized cells are achieved in the most superficial layer, that is the stratum corneum. So the keratinization occurs in stratum basal. The basal cell acts as a precursors for keratinocytes. So keratinocytes develop here, and then these keratinocytes goes upward layer by layer by the mitosis process, and then in the most superficial layer of epidermis there forms a fully keratinized cells, which that is in the stratum corneum, which is very essential for the skin health, and they produces the or accumulate the keratin protein. Okay, the stratum basal, let me erase this first. Okay, the stratum basal layer also contains melanocytes. So melanocytes are the cells which produces melanin, and melanin is very essential for the pigmentation of the skin. Melanin is the product which gives color to the skin, which gives pigmentation to the skin, and it is produced from this melanocytes which is present on this layer, which is stratum basal of epidermis. And the stratum basal also consists of Merkel cells. So what this Merkel cells does? It is used for the sensory transmission. These cells are the mechanoreceptors, and they help with the sense of touch by transmitting the signals to the nerve endings. And these nerve endings are present in the dermis layer, which is the second layer of the skin present below the epidermis. So in the most deepest layer of dermis, which is epidermis, sorry, the most deepest layer of the epidermis, which is connected with the dermis here, and the dermis has nerve endings. The dermis layer have nerve endings. So the Merkel cells present in this basal layer, what they does? They act as a mechanoreceptors, and they help with the sense of touch. They transmit the sensory information of touch to these nerve endings which are present in the dermis layer. Okay, so we have seen the stratum basal layer. Stratum basal layer consists of melanocytes, they consist of Merkel cells as well as the basal cells, which acts as the precursors of keratinocytes. The process of keratinization starts in the basal cells, and the keratinocytes goes upward layer by layer, and in the most superficial layer, that is the stratum corneum, it is become fully keratinized. Okay. There are also one point that you have to keep in mind, that the stratum basal is connected with the dermis below, but the connection is not direct. They are connected, both these layers, that is the stratum basal of epidermis and dermis, both these layers are connected by a finger like projection which is present on both the layers. So as you can see in the picture here, in this picture, this is the stratum basal layer of epidermis, which has this fingers like projection facing downward. These projections are called as epidermal ridges, and the same projections but facing upward are present in the dermis layer. As you can see here, these projections are called as dermal papilla. So these epidermal ridges and dermal papilla, both these projections fuses with each other to connect the epidermal layer with the dermal layer. Okay, so this is the again most important point you have to keep in mind here, like how the epidermis and dermis layer is connected. They are connected by the epidermal ridges and dermal papilla of both the layers respectively. Moving on, now we'll see the four layers of the remaining body, which is the thin skin. So these four layers are same as that of the thick skin, but one layer is absent here, which is the stratum lucidum. The remaining four layers are stratum corneum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum basal. All the other things happens exactly similarly as that of the thick skin. The basal cells has the stratum basal has basal cells, has melanocytes, and has Merkel cells. There is also keratinization occurs from the stratum basal, goes upward up to the stratum corneum to form fully keratinized cells. But there is only one difference, that stratum lucidum is not present in the thin skin, which is the skin of the remaining body other than palms and soles of the body. So why it is happening, why the stratum lucidum is present only in thick skin and not in thin skin? So we know that thick skin is exposed to more friction and mechanical stress due to the activities, due to the functional requirements like walking, grasping, walking by soles, grasping by hand. So here stratum lucidum provides extra protection to this area. That's why it is needed in that portion because of the functional requirements. Okay, now we'll see uh, both the thick skin and thin skin differences. What are the differences we are seeing in both the skin? First is epidermal ridges. So epidermal ridges we have already seen in the previous slides, which are the finger-like projections facing downwards in the stratum basal layer of epidermis. So these epidermal ridges are present in thick skin but absent or less prominent in thin skin. Why so? Because these epidermal ridges are responsible for the fingerprints. The epidermal ridges and the dermal papilla's attachment is responsible for the formation of fingerprint. They are responsible for the fingerprints. So fingerprints are present in thick skin. We know it is present on the fingers of the hand and fingers of the leg. So epidermal ridges is present in thick skin and it is not present or less prominent in thin skin. Next is sebaceous gland, hair follicle, and arrector pili muscle. All these are absent in thick skin and they are all present in thin skin. Okay. Next is sweat gland. Sweat gland is are many in thick skin and fewer in thin skin. Why so? So as we know that the thick skin lacks sebaceous gland, which is also called as oil glands, as thick skin does not have sebaceous gland, which are also called as oil glands. So sweat glands, what sweat gland does here? They compensate by maintaining hydration and lubrication to the thick skin. Sebaceous gland is not present, so the thick skin lack the lubrication that is needed. So sweat glands are present many in this region to provide the lubrication and also the hydration which is needed. And the sweat glands here also helps in thermoregulation, and the sweat provides slight moisture that improves the grip and traction, which is allowing for the better grasping. So here also there is functional requirement of sweat glands here. So that's why in thick skin there are many sweat glands present, and in thin skin as there is presence of sebaceous gland. So there is no much need of sweat gland here. So fewer sweat glands are present in thin skin. Next is the sensory receptors. So sensory receptors are also many in the thick skin and fewer in the thin skin. Why so? Because here also there is functional requirement, because high sensory receptors help with grip and exploration of the object in the palms, and also helps in the balance and movement in the soles. So there is functional requirement of the sensory receptors more in the thick skin as compared to thin skin. So that's why the sensory receptor are present many in the thick skin and fewer in thin skin. So I hope you've understood the difference between the thick skin and thin skin, and why some structures are present in thick skin and absent in thin skin. So in a nutshell, if I say, there is the functional requirement of that structures in the thick skin, that's why it is present more in the thick skin as compared to the thin skin. So that's all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we'll study the remaining part of the skin anatomy. Until then, keep reading and don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Thanks for watching this video.